Hello everyone, how we doing? Hope we're doing well. We are long overdue for a tutorial or something drum related for that matter. So I've been getting a lot of questions about a particular fill from a Mirrors song called Leave Them Behind. Sort of happens at the peak of the song. I will leave a link in the description if you don't know what I'm talking about. But before we get into that, please subscribe to the channel and like the video and leave a comment. Leave a comment now. Just get that algorithm going and help us out. So, before we get right into it, a lot of my students will tell you that I very much like getting into the details and getting lost in the weeds. So, if you are so inclined, then come on the journey with me. But if you're not, I will leave timestamps so you can skip straight to the, right hand, left hand, right foot, yada, 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 the whole shebang, okay? So, it's interesting that a lot of people really seem to dig this fill because in the sense of like it's quick and it's, kind of flashy and everything, but it's relatively straightforward. It's probably the speed part that makes it tricky. So, like, for example, I had someone asking me about it the other day. They were like, they wanted to get into some linear style fills. And they're like, well, I use this combo and this combo and this combo and, stuff like that. I'd like to do something that's more like the Leave Them Behind fill. And I'm just like, well, that's interesting because you're using way more combos than that fill. So you're probably going to find in some respects, it's actually more straightforward than you think. So what we'll do is we're going to go through it in terms of starting at the barest bones and then building through it the way I would normally teach a fill. Now, the way I would normally start teaching a fill is by doing just the rhythm, everything on the snare, okay? Because from there, everything is just orchestration. Now, fortunately for this one, it's all 16th notes. You've got there's 2 8s at the start, but beyond that, you're just talking, off you go. So let's get straight into the next phase. So this fill is split in 2, okay? So we'll tackle it in its 2 halves. So the first part is this kind of ramp up, where things sort of just start picking up, so that when it gets to the fill, when it's just like, look at me, it's it's kind of hits that peak, okay? I'm going to start by doing the first half complete, but very slowly, and then we'll go into its individual elements, okay? Okay, so 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Let's just look at each individual beat. So it sort of sets up with just like it's just like your 1 and, okay? So that's just, almost like it's starting off like a groove, but then it kind of like just sort of whips off. Beat 2, paradiddle, but we're accenting the first 2, okay? So, all right, so. Then, beat 3, we've got this kind of, what I would refer to it as an inverted paradiddle shape. What is an inverted paradiddle? So for standard paradiddle is right, left, left, left. Inverted would be right, left, right, left, okay? Don't need to worry about that, but I do find it helpful to think in those terms because then you can look at the shape of any fill and then relate it back to a lot of these sort of core stickings. So that's kind of why that thinking of it that way works for me. So in that sense, we've got, like this, reverse it as you need. Maybe you play right-handed, maybe you play left-handed over here, but I'm just going to go through it as I play it. So we've got, so if I just, it's an open hat, but I'm just going to keep it closed just to make it a bit clearer. All right, so we're dropping in a kick on the R, okay? So 3, R. So the inverted paradiddle, it's between the kick and the snare. All right, that's how I think about it, okay? So you don't even have to go that far. You can just think kick, snare, snare, kick. If we go from the very start, we'll put all those pieces together, okay? So we got... All right, cool. One more time. So 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and A. And those two rights on the snare, you'll be ghosting those as well, okay? So when you do your accents, pop, pop, nice and loud, use a rim shot, and then just very soft as you can. At this speed, they're gonna get pretty loud, so that's to be expected. Where's my laptop charger? Da, 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 da. Crisis averted. All right, so let's put that together one more time. And the last bit, your classic 2 on the hands, 2 on the feet. And when I recorded this, I recorded it with 1 foot, but I've started doing it with 2. I've just decided that for live, it just cuts through a lot better. One's not better than the other. You know, it's just 2 feet produces just a much more solid sound, okay? So, also on the 4E and 2 on the hands, snare, rack 1, and then whatever you prefer, you know, right, left, or right, right, it's up to you. So 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and A. And then we're into the next bit, okay? So one more time, a little bit quicker. Now we do the tumbling down the stairs bit, all right? So this is something that leans a bit closer to like the linear gospel kind of thing, okay? We're gonna start on just the snare with the kick before we worry about orchestrating it everywhere else, okay? And we're just gonna go right, left, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, kick, okay? So I think I lied at the start. I think I said it was all the way through, but yeah, there you go. So, okay, so just nice hard finish on the 4 with that little kick in between. Classic, so good. All right, one more time. Now I'm playing that obnoxiously with rim shots because when you do this fill, you really want to just as best you can, just like try and dig into like every hit. I feel like I'm still working on this fill. I'm really trying to make sure that everything just like rolls together and just everything lands on just basically each drum stays hit is an expression that I think I heard Dave Haley use that one. It was like that's the exact way to think about it. Stays hit. And another key part of it, I think with playing any of these fills, if you're going to go into this linear thing, is to not get too caught up in the groupings because the groupings they'll be like in threes and bibs and bobs. Always have the reference of the beat at the forefront. Some people just go, yeah, cool, like right, left, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, without thinking like right, left, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, kick, right, that whole kind of thing. Like this kind of goes in the background a little bit. And, they're sort of just playing these groupings and sort of just like kind of keep, sort of keeping it in time with the beat rather than trying to make it all one kind of piece. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, have a go next time you play any kind of fill like this. Where you're playing like all kinds of groupings and see if like you're aware of when you're going like, 1, 2, 3, 4. If like all those individual hits, you know exactly where they're supposed to be landing. Little food for thought. So anyway, we've got that pattern. Now, let's focus on the orchestration. So your first 2 stay on the snare. Your second 2 are going to go floor tom, rack 1. So we got, so that's your 1E and R2. And the rest is basically single stroke. So we've got snare, snare, kick, floor, 1, kick. And then we've got, okay, so that's the last little piece of the puzzle there. Now the fun bit, putting the two together. Now, I think, the more I work on this fill, I think thinking of it in two halves, and this is, I think learning it in two halves does help. But when you're playing it, try not to think of it as two halves, because the first part of the phrase flows into the second part of the phrase, because the fill's already started. So if you're kind of mentally restarting, you might find yourself tripping over a bit. This is something I came across when I was trying to work out. It's like, I'm messing up here, what's going on? And I kind of found that was the issue. Or you could just do it really slowly to a click like everyone else, and then just slowly work it up, and you'll get there, because that's not what I did, because we were on a schedule. Just write simpler fills, Rob. So let's put it all together. Just if you just got to keep going back, there will be a transcription for this, by the way. Let's just put it all together. So we got So I would say that when you're working on this fill, really try not to be coy with it. Really try and dig in. That's what gives this stuff its sound, particularly when it comes to playing toms. That using one of the main reasons I use 2Bs is so that I get just a big fat tom sound. Okay, so when you want to do a you're really digging in, not playing tight with your hands, but still giving it a really good hit. Okay, so one more time. Except one little detail. Look, this isn't necessarily intentional, but those sort of last couple of snare hits, they don't tend to be sort of rim shot. They kind of just, they tend to be a bit quieter. It's not deliberate, but I kind of like the way that, it kind of gives you a little bit more headroom, so that when you finish on the snare, on the 4, you get that, get the whip. So if everything's at the same volume, then, you just don't get that, that same kind of impact, because that's what you want, boom, so that's what you want. And just one small detail, I think one thing that really helps, that kind of helps with this fill, that kind of sets it up, is how if you take notice in that first half, there's this element where it sort of starts off like a groove, but even though it's kind of going crazy with all the stickings and everything, if you look at it, that whole first bar, beat 1 lands on the kick, beat 2 lands on the snare, beat 3 lands on the kick, beat 4 lands on the snare. So the whole time, even though it's fast and everything, it's going boom, cut, boom, cut. So it has this reference to it, so that even though it's going crazy, that reference is still there, because there's still stuff going on, rather than just going just straight into it, and everyone's just going what the hell? Because the next bit is where it goes off the rails. But it's just kind of, that's the idea. There's this kind of moment before it all kind of unleashes again. So, and there's no toes to tread on. So that's kind of the idea. It's tension. When you play, the more you think of things in terms of tension and release, it's you've got this sort of wind up to the fill that's still crazy, but you still got the beat. So you've got you wouldn't call it release, but it's it's stable, and then you've got the tension, and then you've got the big breakdown after it. There's your release. Okay, so, and obviously, and the fact that it resolves on the 4 as well, you get this little boom, that's how that works. So you don't have to think of everything like this, but I think it helps to put a little bit of thought into how your parts are functioning when you're coming up with a fill or just a part or whatever. And I think that the whole tension and release thing is a really good way of just analyzing what you're doing. If you do have that that kind of luxury to sit there and really just pull apart everything you're doing. Like, not everything has to be just just playing on the kit and everything's just divinely inspired. There's nothing wrong with sitting there and just really mulling over it. Like, it's called thinking. So hopefully that's useful. Hopefully that description was useful of the fill, and even if you just take little pieces of it or whatever, but even just the sticking stuff is a little bit gnarly, but even just say the linear part of it, conceptually very straightforward. I think it's just the tempo, and of course there's the production elements on the album and all that kind of stuff that just makes it really impactful. So it just it does go to show you that you don't really have to go to great lengths on a technical level to make things sound bananas. Granted, the speed is there, but that just comes with time. So you can take, just a few tools that you have and just use them really, really well and orchestrate them. And for me, it was less about, even though it's a quick fill, I still had a melodic focus to it. So hence that kind of odd kind of shape to it. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can hit me up. If there's a part on something that I've played previously that you'd like me to break down, please hit me up. I'd love to take you through it and just break it down to its simplest concepts. Otherwise, just subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment and all that stuff. And I'll catch you next time.